in Central Kentucky to see what they charge. He was suggesting that we'd have a $5 a month garbage fee. It came back that all the counties, all the cities in Central Kentucky were collecting garbage fees. And the one closest to the $5 was Danville. At the time, almost 9. So that's why we put it in. Mr. Wilder has said we did something behind closed doors so we could raise taxes in the future. Now, I am not privy to any discussion or behind closed doors that ever happened like that. Now, Commissioner Wilder said he was. So I'll take his word for that. But I'm telling you, I did not. And I've had comments made by you, Commissioner, that the 3 votes we had that were getting things done 2 years ago were done behind closed doors in meetings. I never did ever once time have a meeting with those other 2 to talk about things that we were doing. Now, and I've heard this whole thing about transparency, and the only thing, most thing that I see is transparent now, that there is no transparency. Because if you will remember, Commissioner, we're going to move on here. You get your long say, I'll see in mind, we're moving on. We can address this another time. But we'll go back to December, when you came to my office, before y'all were sworn in, with a little bit of anger, because I had to make a comment to the county judge executive about the swearing in ceremony. And I said, we get along. I wish I'd known you were going to be having it down there together. That was all. And so the next day, you came into my office, upset, saying, you let me know that the commissioner don't have my permission to talk to anybody or something, or the county judge doesn't have my permission to talk to anybody. I said to you, absolutely I know that. And then you said to me, in all transparency, you said, well, things are going to be different these next 2 years. And I said to you, in all transparency, I know that. You're going to have 3 votes. And I said, I know what 3 votes are. You may recall I said those things. That I know the value of 3. And you said, and I told you that there's no way you could hurt me. I told you no way you could hurt me physically, financially, or professionally. And I understood the value of 3 votes. And then you said, I said, what kind of things do you want to change? You said, well, that garbage fee is going. And I said to you, you can't say that. And you said, yes, I can. I said, no, you can't. You said, yes, I can. I said, well, you can't because you don't know if you're going to have the votes or not. Now, you come back here all these times and you see, you've got votes. So that makes me think, in terms of transparency, that there's some things not transparent. And so that's what, when you tell me that the thing behind closed doors, you told me also, about 2 years ago, after we had that vote, you made this statement, and that time, first time I got upset, I said, you can't get in my head. You know what I'm thinking. There's no way you know what I'm thinking. And you were saying that we passed this $600,000 fee so that we could raise taxes or fees, where you want to call it, again. And I said, that's not true. And it wasn't true. It's not true to this day. Let's move on. No, sir. No, sir. All right. Let's move on to.
I had to respond to this guy.
No, we're not doing it. We're not moving on. You had your say. You talked and talked and talked. Mm-hmm. He said his say. I did not say. We got to see what we're going to do with this particular thing. Now, are you wanting to move forward?
For personal privilege, I'd like to introduce a motion to allow me to speak. I'm sorry it's come to this. I'm sorry that the mayor's trying to use his position to keep
you can have that if you want. If you get a second to that and pass it, you can do it. Otherwise, you don't do it. Now, sometimes you make the motion, you got a second, you want to give you a chance to talk again. That's fine and dandy. You don't do it. Anybody wants to give it a second, please do so.
I'll second.
You've got a second, okay? Listen to this. Call the roll then.
Well, no, if we can comment before voting, I'd just like to remind everybody, I would never, ever, if I'm ever serving as mayor pro tem, I would never abuse my position to prevent a duly elected public official from speaking. And as a commissioner, I would never, ever vote to prevent a duly elected public official from speaking. And I think it's
And then I would also make a point that the chair is supposed to have decorum and order. And I'm trying to be fair with everyone, to give everyone a chance to talk. And the commissioner has dominated the conversation. And so therefore, if you want to give him a chance to talk again, fine and dandy. All right, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hayden? Yes.
What was that? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
I'll vote no because I think we've discussed beyond what we need to.
Okay, you may speak, Commissioner Wilder.
Mayor Graham?
No, I would know.
Mayor, can I respond? I just want to say, just on this one issue, I'm not saying that somebody can't speak. I'm just saying on the issue that we just need to move past.
We'll just try to get.
I understand.
We'll just try to. I'll try to get through this real quick now.
Please do.
I've never meant to claim that any of these meetings were literally held behind closed doors. I just assume that people understand that's a term that refers to outside of public meetings or in private as opposed to in public. And the reason it's so important to have these conversations in public is because then they're on the record and there's no room to dispute who said or didn't say what. And in regards to that, I think you're mischaracterizing the conversation we had in December. The fiscal court was interested in knowing if the commission wanted to be sworn in with them. And what I took issue to was you're telling the county judge executive that those decisions should come through you, that they should come through you. When, of course, according to the law in our city charter, it's the executive authority. The decision on when to schedule or not schedule meetings is up to the executive authority. It's not appropriate for any single member of this body to essentially filter those decisions. So the idea that you have to approve it before it comes to us, I disputed. And we agreed to disagree and clearly don't see some things eye to eye on that. But from my perspective, that was the nature of that conversation. And at that point, I did infer that I would expect the garbage fee to be out. But it's not because we were having secret clandestine meetings. It was because we all campaigned against it. It's because everybody spoke out against it during the campaign, in public, on the record, on television, in the newspaper, online, etc. Everybody had made very public statements opposing the $60 garbage fee. And so I wasn't trying to claim we had worked out some secret deal. I was just saying I think it's fair to assume that the new commission isn't going to want to keep the $60 garbage fee just on the basis of numerous public comments that it made. So I don't think there's anything untransparent about that claim. I think that fact that all four of us campaigned against that fee is a matter of public record. And also there have been a number of times, in all fairness, where this commission in a meeting will have a discussion and come to some kind of conclusion or next order of business. And then either later on in the meeting or in a subsequent meeting, we'll reference that conclusion or next order of business, and you'll not know what we're talking about. Sometimes even later in the same meeting, and you'll think, well, I wasn't privy to that discussion. I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know, in all fairness, I don't know if you're not, I don't know what's going on there. I absolutely trust, I question your judgment sometimes, Mayor, but I absolutely trust your integrity. And I know that you mean what you say. And I know that you are an honest person at heart. And I don't intend to challenge that. But there do seem to be instances where this commission will discuss something in a public meeting and reference that discussion later on in the meeting or in a later meeting. And you'll accuse us of conducting business behind closed doors because you don't recollect the initial discussion. And I don't know if that's a matter of faulty recollection or just not paying full attention during the time the discussions are had. But it's becoming a problem. You keep accusing us of having those discussions that are had in public meetings on the record, audio recorded. You keep accusing us of having those discussions outside the public record because you don't recollect them, and that's a problem. And finally, I've never claimed that you and Commissioner Carter and Commissioner Williams actually got together to discuss this stuff. I've always claimed that Tony was the conduit for those discussions. So Tony would go around and have individual conversations with each of us and collect consensus like that. That doesn't mean that everybody's in the room at the same time. But Tony discussed, sometimes there would be two of us in the room at once. You and I were both in that room at once on a few occasions, including when you convinced me that it's illegal to lower taxes. You can claim that those discussions never happened, but you and I both know that. I both know that those discussions happened at the beginning of the year. So maybe I am accusing you of not being entirely honest. But we know, my point is that the way things used to work is the city manager would gather consensus behind it, would have conversations with individual commissioners. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a decision. When the previous garbage fee was actually presented to the public, when the draft ordinance was presented to the public, the details of it, the size of the fee, the question of whether or not to raise taxes, or raise the fee and lower taxes accordingly, all that stuff had already been worked out. Completely worked out in conversation between the city manager and all of us individually. But that's what I refer to as conducting business behind closed doors. It's a thing that was worked out before it was brought to the public. I understand that you all weren't meeting in a separate room somewhere, which we all know would be illegal. But which nobody, but which hasn't. I don't believe you all did that. This commission hasn't done that. I'm just saying that there are ways to skirt the letter of that law and to gather consensus before things go to a public meeting. That happened a lot last term. It hasn't happened this term. Every parameter that we've set in terms of setting the parameters of this garbage fee, in terms of setting the fee, in terms of providing carts instead of bags and this, that, and the other, all those parameters have been set in public meetings by a majority of the commission in public meetings. And to claim that those parameters have been set outside of public meetings, it's just not true. And there's ample public records to prove that.
Okay, I would like to comment on two things, but I said I was going to close this off here, and I'm going to close it off. There'll be other opportunities. I'm sure we'll have a discussion, and I'll be able to retaliate to some of the things that you said. And be glad to do so. Where are we now?
Next item was to be discussed was an idea of.
Wait a minute. We want to get do we need to get a first? Yes.
Now that we're done with all the bickering, can we get back to business?
I would like that.
Would everyone stop trying to defend yourself at all these meetings? You guys act worse than my children. You guys act worse than little 4.5-year-old kids. My kids can behave better than you guys do. Which, to me, they're good kids. But you guys need to learn to keep your head where we're going in these discussions, please.
Sure.
I would like to ask the department heads their opinions with the parameters that are set financially with the pay-as-you-go program. I would like some feedback from you all. And I've talked with Tom prior. I'm just asking him from other cities that he's talked to, what would they have done different with their system that they already have in place?
The one comment I got, excuse me, I'm dry. The one comment I got from Pennsylvania, I can't think of the town right now, but I've got it on my desk, was that they wouldn't have done the 35-gallon can. He said they would not have done the 35-gallon can. He said that it was a little bit harder to manage than they thought it would be. That's the biggest comment that I've gotten so far as people saying what they wouldn't have done.
And do you have anything to add to that? Just any concerns or hesitations that you all may have as a department?
The main concern I've heard is from people that are elderly or live where it's not like your standard subdivision with sidewalks and nice wide driveways, is the rollout cart. When I think we thought about the rollout cart, we were thinking more in the perimeter subdivisions, and to order the carts for the ordinance is the way it's drafted kind of gives Public Works the ability to go in and meet face to face with a resident that may have an issue, and then give an exception to that resident, whether it's age, medical condition, or physical constraint of the property. And so I guess prior to ordering the cans, and the fact that the small can may not work on some of these, like South Frankfort, we had a resident here today that it's just physically not possible to get the can from the street up to the resident's house. Trying to work out how we give bags, or do we go to, what is that provision? What is the exception specifically going to be? And how do we get the bags to the residents if they are given an exception? Do they come to City Hall and purchase those, or a sticker where they can go redeem those at the grocery stores? We've talked about maybe giving them, but how do we actually give them out? And what's the mechanism? I'd like to talk a little bit more about it, just to get some feedback from the board of what they would like to see, and then talk to staff on what they think is possible.
Got a question in that regard, if you don't mind. Would it be practical to simply supply them with the bill? Or would it be practical to simply supply them by annually? So supply 6 months worth of bag to those, because I assume we're not talking about thousands of pounds. We're talking about.
But everybody gets bags, and not everybody gets a bill.
Right, what if they get the free cans?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were just talking about the folks who are taking bags instead of carts.
Do we have the staff that's on that route, who's driving the truck, possibly drop those off? If we have inmates, I know we talked that inmates can't really go up to the doorway.
Yeah, they can't leave public right away.
But could the driver, who's city staff, or the person, if we're hiring a code enforcement guy, would the code enforcement guy be the one who could deliver bags?
It's worth noting that the first year is really easy. The first round of bags is really easy because we're going to be going around delivering carts to every house anyway. So it's easy enough when the carts are delivered to have the bags in the carts. So that at least handles the first one.
Frankly, I had a thought for that. I didn't see why we would be in business delivering the bags anyway. Why don't we just provide them with a voucher for X amount of bags, and then they can purchase that? You're looking at considerable demand on staff. You're suddenly have to supply bags. And the average person who would have to purchase an overflow bag would get that ideally from the Kroger or Walmart or whatnot. So just provide them a voucher, good for X amount of bags, and then your problem solved on that.
That really could get me out of that.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I like the voucher idea because we could issue vouchers to the person face to face, and we're not handling cash. I don't think I don't like our department handling cash,
right,
and getting a scandal that we can avoid by just doing a voucher program. Inmates probably shouldn't handle cash. But I'm serious. I think the voucher has a lot of merit because it gives David, Sam's, or myself, or Tom, or someone that can look at things on a case-by-case basis, and by phone call, we can go out and meet with them. And there's a mechanism for getting the bags out without tying up staff, which are going to be busy collecting garbage or enforcing the ordinances that we pass. So. And it also kind of where you have the physical, the property, some issues that we've heard about here at the meetings may lessen their concerns over the program. But I guess you'd almost have to get into a situation where you still limit people how many bags, or else the pay-as-you-throw program becomes a farce. So they get so many bags per month, or they have to pay. Is the way I understand the pay-as-you-throw program. So we'd have to be monitoring how many bags we give out so that there's a credible program.
So they'd get a voucher every month or biannually?
However, biannually would be easiest to do it with the deal.
Yeah, that's another question, is if they could, before you get the voucher for the bags, that you are paid at your bill is paid.
Right.
To me, that there's no mechanism to get to collect the money. So if we give out bags without proving that they paid, that loophole can be closed very easily.
And then do we take the cans away? So what if they're not using the bags, using the cans? Do we take the cans away since the city owns them if they're not paying? Does that?
Well, if they're stored on their property.
What if it's the day of trash collection?
But if they're out on the curb and they're not being used, or they're keeping those cans out on the curb 7 days a week, in the ordinance that's written, we have the rights to go and confiscate those cans
And do we
take them back
if they don't pay to take their cans? So if they have the $4 or the $12 cans, do we take them? And where do we store them?
We would bring them down to our building. But if they're paying charge zero and they're
Right.
we wouldn't touch those cans, but the larger cans,
this kind of ties into a deeper question that Steve has for all of us, I think, which is there an opportunity in here to catch up on some of the delinquent, the existing delinquencies in terms of what is it?
We've got approximately $125,000 worth of uncollected bills for the fee-based program that we've got in place right now. There's about 15% of the folks that haven't paid under, in 2009 and 2010. So
some of those folks have signed up for the new program.
Yeah, that was what really kind of bothered me. One gentleman came by and said, "I want to sign up for the new program, and here's the trash can sizes I want." But when he got the check in, he hadn't paid his fee for 2010. So my point was, is it fair to let those folks just slide into the next program, and go on and get their cans when they haven't paid their fees up to date for the prior program that we're ending? And my point is, I think it's a good opportunity for us to go ahead and collect out the fees before they get their cans. We'll say, you owe fees for 2000. We can have a list and hand the cans out and say, you need to go down to City Hall and pay your fee, and we'll deliver the cans. That was kind of my point.
I think it's a good point.
Yeah, we could pick up, let's say $100,000. The fees that were established by the ordinance. We could go ahead and collect those fees and clean up the older program before we start the new program.
I would be open to that, but there is another side of the coin that we would have to consider. These are folks that don't want to pay the fee. They made it very clear that they weren't paying a $60 fee. They're not going to pay the new fee. We're inherently talking about folks that aren't in respect for the law. As in choosing to disobey the law, that's a choice right there. So if we do that, then we would have to be prepared and targeted for enforcement in terms of the legal dumping, or in terms of just letting the trash pile up in front of their house, or if we cut off the service to those folks, there's a consequence to that we at least have to be aware of and prepared to deal with. Stop laws are stop laws.
Commissioner Moore.
One other issue in response to Commissioner Haddon's question is our retirement program is built upon our relationship with Lexington, and Lexington has to date refused to enter into any long-term contract with the city. We have no contract with Lexington. We have a month-to-month agreement with them, and the commission needs to be aware that if Lexington decides to change its program in some way, shape, or form, and we do not have a contract, then we're subject to their actions. And Jeff and I are going to try and meet with the folks up in Lexington to try and negotiate a the contract, but to date they have declined to do so. So that's a concern with the ongoing program as well. It's nothing new.
Sure.
But this does potentially bring in a substantial amount more recyclable material. So if there is a problem, then it would have a bigger impact.
And our contract at the landfill's up into next year?
5-year contract, and I think we're in year 2. 5 years.
Okay.
And there's no minimum requirement.
One of my hesitancies I asked them was if there was a minimum amount of tonnage that we have to put in at landfills. I know some cities, larger municipalities and stuff, do have a minimum that they have to put in.
But we do not have a minimum requirement. It's just a flat per ton charge.
Distribution, would we do that neighborhood to neighborhood, one neighborhood at a time? So
Well,
you just kind of phase the system into the city, or wake up Monday morning and everybody in town and chaos breaks loose?
well,
Has that been talked about?
we've talked. My understanding is this would be, we would order the cans,
Mm-hmm.
the whole quantity, and in that contract, those would be a delivered price.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
And then delivered to the households
delivered to the household.
by the manufacturer.
So, it may, I'm not sure if it's going to be all in 1 week based on your day, but that would be the way I understand we would deliver those on your day.
In terms of getting ballpark estimates at the conference center in Nashville, folks told me that you can count on it, a city our size, that you can count on a manufacturer distribution taking them a week or 2.
And would we still deliver it? People who don't want to be in the system? What about people who don't want our collection?
We would still, you don't have a choice. You get both cans, the recycling and the garbage, within that short window of our delivery date.
But currently there's no real. If somebody wants to opt out of the fee, they can just get the small can. Since somebody doesn't want to pay a fee, but currently all any household has to do to opt out of our garbage collection now or with Pedro would be to just find. If anybody wants to find an alternate way to dispose of their waste, there's nothing prohibiting a household from contracting with a private hauler. It'd be way cheaper to get it from the city. But if folks want to do that, they can. Or if folks want to gather up all their waste and take it to the dump. Folks don't actually have to participate to that extent. Folks can practically decline to participate if they don't want to pay a fee. But they do have to find accommodations for their trash, because to do otherwise is illegal for very good reason.
Some of the large apartment complexes that we currently serve, I think there's only a few left, they have that choice of going to private collection, which solves a lot of the issues that pay-as-you-throw put on apartments. And I talked to one property owner recently that has a large complex that we're proposing not to serve, and he said, I've already contracted to get dumpster service, just because it'd be hard to track tenants of that large number and go back and prove who's not playing by the rules. So he's just off with and go with a dumpster.
Does the $5 fee ordinance give people options to?
No.
Even
mandatory.
They could not have.
Even empty properties that don't have residents have to pay the $5 fee, even if they produce 0 pounds of waste a year.
Well, that's the way we ordered this, isn't it?
Weren't those exonerated?
Well, the vacant lots were,
Vacant lots,
but not an empty house.
But the Pedro would give those folks the opportunity to pay them monthly bill if they're not producing the trash. I have another question about collecting, about a mechanism to collect. I'm sure this has as much to do with politics as anything. But in terms of collecting the $100,000+ that are out there already, plus any potential problems you might have collecting under Pedro. I mean, these problems aren't specific to Pedro; they're just specific to any bill or tax or anything. It's a law. The current law says the folks have to pay $60 a year for garbage collection. Anybody who doesn't pay it is violating the law. So, I mean, why not just charge them crimes?
It's a civil offense according to our ordinance, and what you do is you have to give them notice 2 times, which we've done, and then you take them to the Board of Code Enforcement, and that's the mechanism, rather than charge them with a misdemeanor.
There's also